Welcome to this segment, which I like to call Couch Conversations with Katie. We're going to step away from the concepts of things and actually look at the reality of things and talk to people who do have experiences in relation to abortion or the various subjects that are surrounded by abortion. So today I will be talking to someone who actually has had an abortion and what it was like to go through that process. This is one of those subjects that might possibly be triggering, so be forewarned before you listen. I do hope you stay and listen though, because this is a kind of conversation I feel like more people should have and more people should know. So come join me for the Couch Conversations with Katie. Welcome to Couch Conversations with Katie. This is a little bit different, where I actually talk to a person about something in relation to abortion or sex or, the broad things that you touch when it comes to abortion. This week I'm actually talking to someone who has had an abortion, and I'm really excited to be able to talk to her because this is a perspective I don't think we really hear. We hear about the idea of having abortions and why you should or shouldn't have it, but it's very rarely that we actually have conversations of the experience of having an abortion and the process of doing it and the decisions to be made and how that felt and all of that. So, for anonymity purposes, this person does not have a name, but welcome.
Thank you. I just have to say off the bat that immediately made me nervous. Yes, because it's like, wow, that's a lot of, because you're absolutely right. You don't hear it from the people that have been through it. You hear it from, people's perspectives of how they think you should do and how you should act and everything like that. So that's why, yes. And that's why I was like, oh, now I'm nervous.
Don't be. Okay. It's going to be amazing. Okay, so I have some questions. I feel like we're going to just go into rabbit holes and it's going to be wonderful. But I have some questions that hopefully will kind of help us find the rabbit holes.
Okay, good. I'm good at finding rabbit holes. So if that's the point, I'm there.
Okay. So let's start with, walk me through the process. How was the abortion done and what were you told prior to it and what did you expect?
Okay, so starters, I've had 2 abortions. Okay. The first abortion was done with the abortion pill. And I do have to say something for your audience as far as saying, like, through this process and everything like that, there is a lot of memories that I either repressed or I just don't remember. And, like, just going through a traumatic experience like that, you kind of just shove it down in your subconsciousness to never look at again. So a lot of these answers I might not remember. So just to give everybody a heads up and everything, I will do the best that I can. But so I think I was about 18 years old when I found out that I was pregnant. And it was one of the worst feelings I had felt up to that date in time. And I don't know why, but I immediately knew that I immediately had that thought of, I am in control of my own body. And I do not care what the person says who got me pregnant. It doesn't matter how they feel about it. It only matters how I feel about it and how I'm going to be able to deal with it and everything. And so there was honestly no discussion in my head about discussing what was going to happen. So when I did find out, like, I made the appointment without counseling my partner at the time. Like, actually, I don't know if they were my partner at the time, so I'm just gonna be honest about that too. But I made the appointment. I, decided to do this all before, revealing to them what was going on. And I was lucky enough to have somebody that was willing to let me make my own decision and not interfere with that and be supportive of what I wanted to do. They did ask if they could go with me down there and everything. And the thing is, you do need a driver. What I didn't know at first was that, so the area that I was living in, there it was a 100-mile radius for the nearest abortion clinic. And so we had a drive and everything like that. So basically a day trip out to somewhere, and got there and everything. Thought it was going to be my appointment. Went in the back and realized, oh, no, this is just a counseling appointment. And the counseling appointment wasn't really a counseling session. They basically sat me down in an office, like, side area, handed me 3 different pamphlets, one of abortion, one of adoption, and one of keeping your kid. And was pretty much like, all right, come back in, I think, 48 hours or something like that. And if you want to come back or don't come back, or, contact us if you're, wanting to do adoption and all that different kind of stuff. So right there, I even feel like that is even taking away your choice. Because I've already made the decision that I wanted this. But yet you're sitting here and trying to coerce me or trying to persuade me to do something different, which I didn't like, and I didn't appreciate that it's not actually my decision until I have to think about it for 48 hours. I've been thinking about it for the last week.
Yeah, I feel like it's assuming that you came to it without having thought about it. And I think that's a lot of people's thought processes as well. Like, abortion clinics need to, like, tell you all your options. Like, you didn't just come in having thought about all of that and, like, went through that in your head going, like, oh my gosh, I could do this, but I don't think I can. And I could do that. Like, yeah, sorry.
No, don't be. I love on the internet and ask questions too. But you did bring up a good point, because I can't speak for everybody. So I don't know what people know what their options are out there and everything like that. My issue wasn't the fact that they give you options. My issue is the fact that they give you options but make you wait. I can understand it from a certain degree of, you need time to process things. You need time to look over the information. I'm glad they don't rush people into decisions, but to almost make it a law or something saying you have to wait. Yeah. That to me is not right. So there was that whole aspect where I think, oh, it's going to be this day. No, now I have to plan for another day. Now I have to take more time out of my schedule. Now I have to make another excuse up for my work because of the backlash of, I can't just go up to my work and be like, hey, I need to go get an abortion. Bye.
Yeah. I'll be back on Monday.
Exactly.
Not having a baby. Yay.
Yay.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think you could get away with that very easily. So that was very frustrating, knowing that, I can't get this over with now. Like, now I got to deal with this for another 2 days. Like this, because for me, it was, I felt like I had something alien inside me, something that I didn't want inside me, something that I needed to get out. I didn't want it. I didn't, like, it was sickening almost. Like, I wanted to, that was another thing. So during the time that I had to wait to get the abortion, I got so motion sick, like I had to leave work early one day because I puked over 6 times within an hour. And it was becoming just stomach, acid.
It was way too early for morning sickness. It was literally just your response.
No, I was...
Something in you.
I think it was actual morning sickness. No. Yes. This was less than a month of being... Yeah.
Really?
For me, it did. Oh. For me, it was... Yeah, it was bad.
Okay.
I kept puking. I kept feeling nauseous. I kept feeling sick and everything. And so I told my work, I have to leave. And I went to a walk-in clinic. And because of the area that I live in, it's very religious. And wanting to get an abortion and being open about that is not the safest thing that you can do around here. And so I went in there just saying, I'm feeling very nauseous and everything like that. Can you give me something for nausea? Thinking that they were going to prescribe me like Zofran, which is what they do give pregnant women or people with cancer, different things like that, to help with the motion sickness. And I don't know what the doctor heard or what happened, but there was some type of miscommunication to where the medication that he prescribed me, I don't actually remember what it was. But basically, made me very, very drowsy to where when I went back to work, like I could barely work. Had to sleep in the car for 2 hours before I ended up going to the emergency room. Went to the emergency room. I walked in. They took some blood and everything like that. They started taking all my vital signs, and they asked me if I was taking anything. And I said yes. And they also had me pee in a cup. Well, when you pee in a cup, they're testing for pregnancy tests, usually if it's a woman. Like, that's the main thing that they're testing for. So I'm pretty sure then, I was also very young. I didn't grow up in the medical industry. We didn't really go to the doctor or anything like that. So I wasn't really aware of what was going on. And so the lady, after I handed her the medication I was taking, she goes, "Oh no, you need to stop taking this immediately." She goes, "This is for diarrhea." So, yeah, so at first the doctor didn't even prescribe me the right medication for my nausea, which I bet if I would have walked in there and felt open enough to say, "Hey, I am having morning sickness.
And it's bad.
And it's really bad, but I don't want to keep this baby, so give me whatever the fuck you can."
To get me through the next day.
Yeah,
Or
sorry,
two.
am I allowed to curse, by the way?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I'm surprised I made it this long without doing
I know,
it.
right?
I was a little scared.
No, you're good.
So basically, they put me in the back, and after 2 IV bags, they finally let me go home.
Wow.
Yeah. So,
Diarrhea.
yeah. Yeah, careful for those walk-in clinics.
Okay.
I'm puking. Cool, here's for something coming out your butt.
But so that happened in between the time of when I had to have my counseling stage.
Okay.
That was 48 hours, which would have been great to avoid.
Yeah.
What if I would have had that option too, but that isn't an option in the state that I live in.
And it kind of backfired because the concept of making someone wait would hopefully give them time to think about it, maybe change their mind and actually decide, oh, I do want this, and it's like a beautiful life growing in me, and I do want to keep it, but actually backfired with you, especially because you're like, this is fucking awful. I want this out of me now. I don't have control of my body anymore. This thing is awful. Like, it was a complete reversal of what they actually wanted to happen with the waiting period.
You're absolutely right about that. And the thing is, I don't even know what they wanted with the waiting period. That's the other strange thing about it. Like, I don't remember there being much discussion.
Also, when you said counseling session, I was like, awesome. Like, that first, for a moment, I was like, that's really cool. They like kind of took you back and were like, hey, can we talk about how you're feeling, what you're going through, what you're wanting to choose, make sure you are, like, you do actually want this. Like, when you said counseling, I was thinking, like, with a counselor, not just, here's some pamphlets, come back in 48 hours, which is, I think, horrible.
And the thing is, I think they did sit me down and go, here's some pamphlets, what are you wanting to do?
Yeah, that's not counseling, though.
But, yeah, exactly. But I did want to give them the, or I did want to let you know, they did ask me what I wanted to do. Yes. Yeah. So they did say that, but you're right. I don't know if that person was a real counselor. It didn't seem like it. I have no proof if they were or not. But it just seemed like one of those things where it was like, okay, we have to do this because these are the state laws. Mm-hmm. So here you go. Yeah. So then I show up for my next appointment. Okay. And I get there. I'm trying to remember. I get there and you're in the waiting room for a little bit. They call you in the back. I think they prick you to test what kind of blood that you are and everything like that. Here's the strange part about it. So I have O negative blood type. Okay. And I think all the medical people out there listening, sorry, I don't know a lot about this. So yes, but Rh negative blood is not a common blood type. And with that blood type, if you have kids that do not have the same blood type as you, your body will start attacking that fetus. And you could possibly die and everything. I did not know this until my second abortion. And a lot of times, if you don't know that and you have your first kid, I forgot the phrase that's for it, but there's a literal phrase where it's like it like basically rejects it, and then so the next time it knows better to fight it off.
It's almost like learned behavior. Like, hey, I realized this thing wasn't supposed to be in here, and then the next one that comes, it's like your immune system. It can say, hey, I realized this thing came in, it wasn't cool, we fought it off, or it went away. And then the next time it happens, it's like, oh, I remember that. Fuck that. Take it away. You know?
Yeah, and I don't know if that's exactly how it works, but from my understanding, I think that's how it works. Okay. Yeah, so where it's like it kind of finally recognizes it as a foreign object in your body. Yeah. And so the first time that I went, I wanted to do the pill because I wasn't really talked to about what are the side effects of the pill versus what are the side effects of the surgery, I guess.
Did you get a DNC? What is it? Dilation and D&E.
D&E?
A dilation and extraction or something like that.
What's that?
Like, so... No, but that happens later term abortion, so you probably didn't get that. Oh, you got the vacuum thing. That's...
I think so.
Okay. That happens earlier.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. I think the first time that I got pregnant, I knew within 2 weeks that I was pregnant. I felt it on my body. My skin was different. Like, it was weird how many people commented, wow, you just seem like you're glowing. They actually said that to me. And that's when I started panicking.
Because that is the phrase that people constantly say to women, like, oh, you're glowing.
And there's a reason behind that, because your skin is perspirating certain oils and different things like that, so you do give off a glowing look. But so I went back there without really knowing the difference between the pill or the surgery aspect. I don't know if the procedure. Yeah. And whenever I got there, like, I was very young. I was so young and didn't realize what I was going through, and it was really weird because it was an older male doctor, and like it was just a very weird feeling of having this guy like put his fingers in my vagina. Like, I had never really had that happen to me before.
How old were you with the second one?
20.
Okay.
It was 2 years later.
Okay.
I think, yeah. And
sorry, he was putting his fingers in.
Oh, yes. Oh, thank you. And so, like, because he has to check certain things inside of you, like, everything, but, like, it would have been, I didn't know that's what was going on. I've never been to a gynecologist appointment before in my life. I've never, had done anything like that before. Yeah. So it was just very uncomfortable. And I think that might be another reason why, especially with the first one, I have really no memory of. Sure. I remember him handing me a pill and being like, okay. And I go, do I take it now? And he goes, yeah, it's taken now. And I was like, oh, okay. So then I just took it and everything. And that's like the first portion of it. So after you go through that, they hand you a bunch of papers. They give you the second dosage pill that you're supposed to take when you're at the house. And then that's when, like, the extraction of the fetus comes out and everything else like that. But they didn't really explain to me what was gonna, like, I guess not in depth as I needed it to be explained. Because they do have to explain a little bit, but when you're coming from a point of having zero knowledge about your body, about anything like that, like, I never grew up having a biology class, an anatomy class, nothing.
And you didn't get told much about sex or periods or babies or anything you should know about that kind of stuff. So, yeah.
Ovulation, I didn't even know that was a word.
Yeah.
Which would have been nice to know.
Very good thing to know, yeah.
Yeah. But, so, I went home. And I remember, it's also embarrassing because I don't know who the father was at that time. And both of the guys were very supportive of my decision and what I needed for me and my life and everything like that. I never felt pressured one way or the other by either one of them, which I am internally grateful for, that they gave me that freedom to have that choice. It was miserable that day, though. It was miserable. Like, I took the second pill. I took it with tap water, which I knew I shouldn't have done because I hate the taste of tap water. And it made me throw up. 10 minutes later.
No.
And I was terrified. So I called the clinic immediately and I go, I just threw up. Like, did I throw up the pill? Do I need to come back? Do I need to have another pill? Like, blah, 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 blah. The nurse was very helpful on the phone and got me to calm down and explained to me, no, you should be okay. Everything's fine. Like, it should have been in your system long enough to, like, react. Right. And I was like, okay, cool. I immediately got so tired and cramps, like enormous cramps started happening. I just remember being so loopy and opening up my eyes every once in a while and seeing like one of the guys like sitting on the floor. I think they were watching TV or I don't even remember what they were doing, but I just remember they were there to make sure I was okay, to help me if I needed anything, which was very sweet and very nice and so helpful in a situation like that. Like having a support is so important.
Yeah.
And then, so I was living with my sister at the time, and then my mom dropped by.
No.
Yes. And I just remember telling them, don't let her come in here. Like, just don't let her come in here and see me and everything like that. Like, tell her I'm sick. Just tell her I'm sick. So they finally got rid of her and everything. And I just remember going to the bathroom and just like blood just coming out, like chunks and chunks and chunks of blood and everything like that. And like, it almost felt like acid had been like squirted up into my vagina and now everything's kind of like melting out is the way that it kind of felt. It was so painful. Yes. And if you want to interject at any point in time, please do.
I'm good.
Okay, cool.
Keep going.
So the abortion part sucked of that and everything. And I thought, oh, okay, well, I'm probably gonna feel kind of shitty. They told me, no, you're not allowed to have sex for, I think, like 3 days or maybe a week, something like that. Like, there is a point in period time. What?
And that's a shorter amount of time than I thought it was going to be.
It actually is kind of a shorter amount of time than you would think, which is actually kind of cool to think like, oh, your body can bounce back super fast.
Yeah.
Mine did not. I had lasting effects of pain during sex for at least a year and a half after that, if not longer, if not until this time. Yeah. And so that happened when I was 18. I'm 26 now. So like it did have lasting effects. So that I want everybody to be aware out there, like it isn't the safest thing. If it was up to me, I would say the pill needs to be illegal.
Okay.
I think it does a lot of damage. I don't think it's safe. I think it's a major procedure that is happening, that we kind of just, I mean, it is nice in the aspect of you can be in the privacy of your own home. You know, you can kind of do it on your own time, kind of not, but like it just lasted so long.
It reminds me of kind of like a fast food version of abortion, where you're just like, here's a pill. And, you know, there's no one who's going to be watching. There's no one who's going to be able to say, oh, not all of it is out, or, you know, telling you what's going on or help. Like, it seems to me like a fast food version of abortion.
It's funny because I would say that about my second experience. It was more of a fast food version.
Okay.
But we'll get to that.
Okay.
So remind me about that.
Okay.
But yeah, but I understand this aspect of you're saying of like, get him in, get him out. That's how it is. It's very much so that way. They do require you to have a follow-up to make sure that the abortion went through.
That's good.
Because I've worked with people where it did not take. And they had to end up getting the procedure in the end anyway. And I've talked to them about it, and they also agree with me that the pill should be illegal. Or it should go under more studies. I don't think that we should take away that option completely, but I don't think it is a safe option at this time.
Like, it needs more study before people should be using it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And it might have changed now. I mean, it's been a while since, you know, I took it and everything like that. But it was a bad experience for me. I had horrible hormonal backlash after that. my body completely changed. My body pre-pregnancy and post-pregnancy was very different, and it changed for good. Yeah. And then, so I was dealing with that for a while, and it's funny that they tell you to get the counseling before, because to me, the most important time to get the counseling is after.
Yeah.
And that's something that I wish I would have had, because I no longer, I had a fear of sex. I had a fear of sex, but I was in a relationship. I didn't know how to deal with that. You know what I mean? I was, it's like I needed help talking through this, it would have been nice to have somebody there where it was like, hey, I'm in pain. And eventually, no, it wasn't. It was the second one. So I kind of just repressed it and was like, okay, it's no big deal, whatever, just get over it. It's over with. Don't ever think about it again, type of thing. And just kept moving forward with life. Well, 2 years later, I remember just waking up one day and thinking to myself, you're pregnant. And just having the worst sinking feeling in the world of God, no, please not again. And so going out, and I had to get a pregnancy test, and just all those thoughts running through your mind and everything of what am I going to do? I don't want to do that again. I don't want to do that again. Sorry.
You're good. Take your time.
It just sucked.
Yeah.
And people out there that say it's an easy choice or it's an easy thing to go through have no idea what they're talking about, because they don't know the long-lasting effects that happen to you psychologically and, in your body. And especially when you live in an area where people are not open to discussing things with you and really being there for you. Thank you. But sorry, I lost my train of thought on that. Oh, I went to go buy the pregnancy test. Yes. And I went back to where I was staying and living at the time, and I took the pregnancy test, and it came up positive. And I just remember in that moment, and to this day, I have never felt so alone in my life. I had jumped in the shower, and I just remember just sinking to the floor and sitting in the shower, just being like, why? Why me again? And I can answer that question now. Why me again is because I didn't know about ovulation. I wasn't on birth control. I was too afraid to get birth control. I didn't know about all these different things that you could do to protect yourself.
Yeah.
And everything like that. And so, I did the same thing that I did the first time, where I made the appointment on my own accord. I made the decision to do it and everything, and there was nobody that was going to be able to stop me. Thankfully, that person did not try to stop me either. They were very supportive and everything. And this time I went to a different clinic, because the one that I went to was not... I had a lot of bad memories from before. Sorry, it's okay. I had a lot of bad memories from before and everything. So, I wanted to go somewhere different. And the second place I went to was almost night and day. Okay. So I will say, the ladies there were some of the most, accepting, non-judgmental, if any of them are listening to this, I'm going to say thank you. Because you really, really helped me in that moment of just utter aloneness, and just making me feel like my decision is mine, nobody else's, and that it is not fair for anybody else to judge me for it. So thank you, ladies. But sorry. Yeah, I haven't cried about this in a long time.
I figured that was going down.
I know, I felt it all day too, and I was like, no, you're gonna be fine. I lied to myself.
We do that every once in a while.
We do. But when I pulled up to the second one and everything like that, there were picketers outside.
Oh, wonderful.
It was an interesting feeling of, and it just felt like another roadblock. Like, it's not your decision to make. It's my body. Like, I almost wanted to go out there and be like, okay, who's taking this baby? And see who raised their hand to volunteer to take it. And see who would have been like, oh, well, we can show you options.
Like,
Because
no.
You're spending your time out here to make me feel like shit for the choices that I'm making. So one of y'all should be willing to take this baby because you're wanting me to be forced to have it. I've never understood that. Like, if going and picketing outside of a clinic, what do they expect to happen? Like, do they expect that their signs are going to make someone look at them and go, you know what? I never really considered that. I think I want to have this baby. Like, just
the thing is, I'm not saying that wouldn't happen. Because in those moments and times, I think you don't know what you're going to do, you know? And I think a lot of times you might have misconceptions of what you should do, like whether that's keeping the baby, whether that's getting rid of the baby, you know? And so I'm not saying that wouldn't change somebody's mind.
Okay.
But I still don't think it's right.
Right.
You know?
also, I feel like if someone did raise your hand, you'd be like, well, I wouldn't want my kid to grow up to be like you anyway.
Yeah.
So I'm still going to go through with this, but thanks.
If you're standing out here in front of this clinic, I don't want anybody raising this child.
We're good.
But I remember pulling into the parking spot and just like kind of having a moment for myself of being like, okay, like it's gonna be okay. You know, whatever happens, it's gonna be okay. And I remember there was a lady with a pamphlet that literally walked up to the car and waited for me to step out of the door. And I intentionally waited inside the car longer. And I remember the person that I was with was like, she's standing outside. I was like, I know, I see her, but I don't want to interact with her or anything. But she was very respectful.
Okay.
I will say that, like, when I did leave the car and everything, she goes, hey, I just want to give you this pamphlet, and I just want to say that, you know, God loves every life. He loves your life. He loves your baby's life. And no matter what, like, he will, like, provide for you. So I don't think these people are trying to be malicious.
No.
I think these people have every good intention out there, you know? But I don't think... But we all just come from different backgrounds, different thinkings, different situations.
Yeah.
And just because you're in a certain situation doesn't mean that that situation is going to be okay for somebody else if they go through that as well.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense.
It's like trying to buy pants that are one size fits all. That's not how it works.
No, it's one size fits most.
Even that, no.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. I tried to justify it, and then I thought about it. I was like, no, I wear girls' clothes.
There is no most. That's not a thing.
There is no most. But, so, like, she didn't super harass me or anything like that. But we walked inside. There was a waiting room. There was a couple other people. And I will say that I was surprised to see how many men were in there, you know, supporting the woman. Whether or not they were the actual guy or a friend or a brother or something like that, there were guys in there supporting women. And that was so refreshing to see. You know, that was very nice to see, actually, that they weren't going through it alone either, you know. But like I said at the beginning and everything like that, you have to, if you go through the procedure or anything like that, you have to have somebody drive you home. You cannot drive. So ladies, don't think that you can actually go out there and be like, oh yeah, I'm fine, because they will make you bring your driver inside as well. They will not let you leave. And you shouldn't leave. But so we were in the waiting room, and this is one thing that I do regret, but I was such in my own vulnerable state at the time. there was a lady that came up and everything like that, and she was talking about how there's thousands of girls out there like us, you know, that would love to have this option and not have it fought against so much and everything, and that they were going through court. I don't know if it was through the Supreme Court or what it was, I don't quite remember, but it was basically asking to sign a petition. And I regret not signing that petition that day.
What do you think kept you from doing it?
I was afraid that my name was going to be on there.
That's what I figured.
Yeah. Which is even, like, more stupid, you know? Like, it's just a name. It's not like anybody fucking knows who I am or anything like that. But, like, that's just the mental process I was going through at the time.
I mean, I don't feel like it is stupid because the way you grew up, if someone did see your name on that or whatever, however unlikely that is, they probably would have been like, they probably would have given you shit and tried to, like, be like, well, why was your name on this? Why were you even anywhere near a place where you'd be putting your name on this? And then, you know, like, there would just be immediate, like,
Judgment.
Judgment, yeah. So I understand why. I don't feel like that's stupid.
Okay, thank you. It feels stupid to me because it feels like such a little thing to give for such a big reward.
Yeah.
You know, and that's why I think I regret it, is because it was like what my name being on there might have made a change.
Yeah.
So there was that aspect of it, and I will say, like, I appreciate them saying that, but at the same time, like, I don't think it was the right audience.
Yeah.
Even though it was the perfect audience. Yeah. You know?
Yeah.
Perfect audience, wrong time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like that might have been better done when you came in for the checkup afterwards.
Yes.
Like, not the day that you're actually going through the procedure, like your first appointment. I feel like after, when you're coming in for the checkup and you've already done it, it makes more sense to do it then, because you're not as emotionally charged with what's going on and all of that, and you can actually think more clearly and be like, oh yeah, I just experienced that horrible thing. I don't want anybody to have to, like, be worried about that or have to go as far as I have. Like, so yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Wrong time.
Yes.
Perfect
Wrong
audience,
time,
wrong time.
right clientele.
Yeah.
So they don't let any of the drivers or, you know, whoever came in with you, they don't let anybody back there but the patient. So they'll call you back there one by one, and we would sit with I think a nurse, or it was a doctor.
Okay.
I don't remember. But I sat down with her. We went over the different options and how they go. I immediately told them I do not want the pill. I immediately knew after that first experience, like, I will try anything but that, because that was so awful and it fucked me up for years. And so she was like, okay. They tested my blood. She found out I was O negative and everything like that. So she's like, okay, you're going to have to get the Rogaine shot, which is like a protein shot that helps your body and everything. Everybody in the medical field, you guys know what I know, like, I'm talking about. If not,
If you're listening to this, comment and explain what all of this is.
Yes.
More effectively, please.
yes, to help somebody out.
Inform us, please.
And so I'm glad I was listening, because in ladies, and gentlemen, whoever's listening to this, it's so important to really listen to what the doctor and the nurses are saying during your appointment, what they want to do to you, what they think's happening, everything like that. Because this isn't the first time this has happened as far as, like, miscommunication happening. So they left the room. She said that a nurse was going to come in and give me the shot and all that kind of stuff. And so I was like, okay, cool. And waited in there for a couple minutes. The nurse came in, took my vital signs and everything like that, and then went to go walk out. And I was like, oh, don't I need the shot? And she goes, what shot? And I go, oh, I was like, I don't remember what it was called. I was like, but the doctor, so I guess it was a doctor talking to me at first. So the doctor told me that that I needed this certain shot or something like that because of my blood type or something. And she goes, no, you're O positive, so you're fine. And I go, no, I'm O negative. She goes, no, you're O positive. And I was very lucky because I had taken a chemistry class in high school to where we got to prick our own fingers and figure out what blood type we were. And I don't know, it was the coolest thing to me finding out that I had the universal blood type and I was able to donate to people. And so when I turned 18, that was my New Year's resolution that year, was I was going to start donating blood because I knew it could be something that I could give to people. And so from that moment, I knew I was O negative. Like, that was not a question in my mind. And so when she said that, I was like, like, no, I am O negative and everything. And she goes, okay, give me just a second. And then she comes back, re-pricks my finger to double check and everything, comes back and she goes, yes, you are O negative. Yes, you do need that shot. If I would have not gotten that shot, I don't know if I would be here today.
Shit.
Yes. I'm not saying for a fact I would have been dead. I'm not saying for a fact that I would have done anything. I'm just saying there's a reason why they give the shot.
Yeah.
So after that happens, basically they don't let you back out in the waiting room. You know, now go into a second waiting room. And it was, this was another thing where, like, I wish I would have known what I would have known now to better communicate with all the other women in that room going through the same situation I was. Mm-hmm. It was one of the most quiet rooms I've ever sat in my life. And, like, we were all just sitting there waiting for our names to be called into this small room and everything like that for the doctor to counsel us, see what we wanted, and then bring us back into the waiting room. And it was funny because I remember sitting in the waiting room and there was this movie playing on the TV, and I'll never forget the scene because, and I think Whitney Houston was in the movie or something like that. I'm going to have to look up what the movie's called because I never did after that. But there was a scene that came on and it was about one friend revealing to another friend that she had had an abortion back in the day. And it just hit so hard. Like, in that moment in time, I was like, oh man, just seems like the worst movie to play. Choice. Yeah. Okay. So after they go through that phase of the small room with the doctor and everything like that, the doctor gets ready with the nurses in the procedure room. And this is why I was saying, like, it felt like a fast food restaurant. Because it's like, they got all the girls in there doing their thing, got them all back out, and then started calling us one by one inside the procedure room, started doing the procedures and everything like that. My name got called. And so I go there and everything. The doctor was fabulous. So this was out of Planned Parenthood. The second one was. I don't remember what the first one was called. And I can't remember if it was Planned Parenthood or not, but I know for 100% fact the second one was. The doctor, once I got in the procedure room, I sat in the chair and everything like that. If you've ever gone to a gynecologist, that's the type of chair it looks like. There's a bunch of machines in the room and different things like that. I put my legs up in the stirrups. Thank you. Stir. I barely know her. I couldn't help myself. So she was very informative as far as explaining every single thing that she was about to do, down to it's the speculums, right?
I just call them the duck bills.
The what?
Duck bills.
The duck bills?
Yeah, because they're like that, and they go inside of you and they look like a duck bill.
To me, they look like the things that you put, the old people or older people or people that can't bend down or different like things like that will put in their shoehorn, yes, yeah. But it's like two shoehorns that have like a cranky crank. Yeah. The thing was, they didn't have one small enough for me. Oh, no. So I even had to have one that was a little bit bigger and uncomfortable and everything like that. But she explained that as well. She goes, I don't think we have one small enough for you. And she goes, so you might feel a little discomfort. And I did. But I'm very happy that she explained that before. And then she told me, she was like, okay, now you're going to get 3 shots. I'm going to, and I was kind of worried. Backing up just a little bit, right when I got in the chair and everything like that, there was 2 other nurses in the room. One to help her with the procedure and one to hold my hand. And I don't think that lady will, maybe she does, I don't know, but I don't think she realized how much in that moment, how much strength she gave me and everything. And she just held my hand. And that's all she had to do for me. And it was really sweet and really nice. And so the doctor was explaining that you're going to get 3 shots and everything. And it was funny because I was like, 3 shots, really? I was like, is it going to hurt and everything? And she goes, they might hurt and stuff like that. And I was like, oh, okay. And I looked very nervous and everything. And the nurse looks at me and she goes, you've already gotten the first one. And I was like, oh, good. Okay. So I didn't feel the first one.
Okay.
The second one was a little bit of a pinch. The third one felt like somebody fucking stuck a needle in my vagina. You know, which they did.
At least it felt like it was.
Yeah, that's true. So, they did that. They waited for it to be numb. I think she even checked if it was fully numb and everything, being like, can you feel that? Can you feel that? I said, no. Please be very honest. You know, if it is not numb, let them know. They will give you another shot. They want you to be as comfortable as you can be. They're not there to hurt you. They're there to help you. So they do that. And then I think, I don't even remember. I think the next step was basically sucking the fetus out and everything like that. And so they did that. My understanding was when they suck the fetus out, it is going to be completely out. And nothing else is going to be in there, you know? Like, it's going to be done. Take out everything. We're going to be fine, you know? But they keep you back there for observations or just in case you bleed or anything like that. And so they finished up and everything like that. And I just remember being loopy. Like, just really, just kind of out of it a little bit. Weak. Like, they had to help me down. They had to help me walk me to I forget what the room's called. But there's a specific medical term for the room after, like, post-surgery room or post-op room or whatever. Okay. I needed help getting into there, and then they put you in a chair, and of course I'm around all the other girls that have been going in there, and as I'm sitting there, I'm seeing other girls come in and everything like that. So, like, that's the part where I will say, like, it felt like a fast food chain. Like, get them all in the surgery. Boom, 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 you know. Which, I mean, I get why they did that. They explained it. They only had a doctor 2 days a week that could perform abortions. Yeah. And so, like, that was really sad to hear, too, because it's like, oh, if there wasn't probably such a stigmatism against it, maybe more people would get into that side of a medical field and everything, and it wouldn't feel like such, like, a fast food cattle parade type of thing, you know, like, there would be a little bit more dignity in it. Not saying that I felt undignified, but it wasn't like going to your family doctor. So, I remember getting up during the time, like, that I was supposed to be back there. I think you were supposed to be back there for, like, 30 minutes or an hour or something like that, for them to observe you and make sure that you're okay. I remember going in the bathroom, and I remember just, like, sitting on the toilet, and, like, a bunch of shit just came out. Like, not actual shit, sorry. A bunch of fluid and blood and, like, pockets of stuff, and everything started just coming out of my vagina. Ooh. And I freaked out a little bit. I was like, I went up to the nurse. I was like, I don't know what to do. Like, I am losing a lot of blood right now. And they're like, it's okay. They're like, this is normal. You're going to be okay. They're like, they did tell me that it was a little bit more than normal. Okay. So I was held back there for a little bit longer than the other girls were. After I was showing signs of being okay to go and everything like that, they give you a bunch of papers and kind of explain to you the aftercare and everything. And you're not supposed to have sex, of course, and you can't wear a tampon, take things slow and all that kind of stuff. Well, because I didn't have a good excuse for my work or anything like that, I was back at work the very next day. And And it sucked. It was a really hard day and everything like that. Not saying that people couldn't do it, but it's like I was still losing blood like throughout the day. It's like almost being on your period.
Yeah.
Except a period that comes with a shit ton more baggage.
Yeah.
Emotional pain.
And a period you can't talk about openly around the workplace and just be like, I have my period and it sucks and people can relate and they're okay and they don't demonize you nowadays, at least in this country, about having your period, you know? So I would just remember having to go through that and remember like I couldn't let anybody know why I looked the way that I did or why I was feeling the way that I was feeling or anything like that. And so I remember a couple days later, I woke up, wasn't feeling right, went downstairs to use the bathroom and just lost so much blood that like I got so faint and I got scared. And so I tried to go back upstairs to where my partner was at the time. And I remember walking up, they looked at me and they're like, are you okay? And I remember reaching out my arm being like, no, I'm not. And I passed out because I lost so much blood and everything. And so, like, I did end up bleeding for several days after and everything. It's not one of those, like, oh, you get the surgery and it's done. Because you don't know what you're walking into, really. And everybody's body's different, too. So it's hard to know what you're walking into. Because I remember meeting this one girl at the place, and we got to talking a little bit in the waiting room, and then we got to talking a little bit in the back and stuff like this. And this was her second abortion as well. And so I felt like we really bonded and related to each other on another level. And she had gotten the surgery the first time. I had gotten the pill the first time. Our second time around, we both chose the opposite one. And she told me the same thing that I told her about the pill. I would never do that again.
Okay.
So that's another thing where it's like, not everybody's body's the same. And so it like kind of is hard to say like, oh, the pill should be like illegal or, you know, all that kind of stuff, because it's like, well, you really don't know how somebody's body's going to react. Yeah. I never got her number. I don't remember her name. I don't remember anything. So I don't know how
It went for her.
exactly. Yeah. Like, did it work out? I don't know. I hope it did. Yeah. There's something inside me that just hoped everything was okay.
Yeah.
But I just remember for a little while after that, like, it took my body to getting used to getting back to normal, because also when you're pregnant, there's so many hormones that are introduced into your body, and your body is so off balance. And when you lose those hormones dramatically, it's very rough on the body. I don't know if that's the same for a miscarriage. I would assume it is, because to me, it's almost the same. Yeah. It's not your choice, but it's almost the same process. Yeah. Your body doesn't know much of a difference. And I knew after the second one, I was like, I will never go through this again. And so I got a family doctor for the first time that wasn't like a quack doctor, basically. Because that's what I had growing up. So it was, and I remember going in there and telling her, she was like, why are you here? And I just remember being like, I have to be honest, because if I'm not, then I'm not going to actually get the help that I need. And I needed help. That's what I needed. I just needed help with my body and just functioning. And so I remember just breaking down and being like, I need help. Like, I just had an abortion. I don't know what to do. Like, I think I need help, basically. Yeah. And they were the nicest ladies. They were so helpful. Like, I remember, like, the nurse just immediately giving me a hug and being like, we are not here to judge you. We are not here to, we're here to help you, basically. Like, so just let us know what you need and we will be here to help you, which was so refreshing to hear that. And actually have, like, people that are willing to support you and be there for you, even though, like, you had made a decision that a big number of the population is not okay with. And so they were very helpful as far as recommending me to a gynecologist. I went to her. I was very open to her about it and everything. The ladies in that office were very respectful to me. They were understanding. I didn't feel any judgment or anything like that. And I remember asking to be on birth control and stuff. And I wanted basically the most locked down birth control you could get, which they recommended the IUD for me. And an IUD can either last like 3 years, 5 years, or 10 years, from my understanding. And I got the 3-year one. And it messed with my hormones so badly. But, like, to the point where I was bleeding for 2 months straight. I was breaking out on my face so bad that, like, people were making comments being like, do you have poison ivy on your face? Like, it was bad. I was starting to lose hair. My skin felt different. Like, everything was just off balance. And I remember people saying, oh, it'll norm out in 6 weeks. So I waited that 6 weeks, didn't norm out, waited the rest of the time for that 2 months to be done with. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. Yeah. I am done with this. Yeah. And so I went to the lady and everything like that, my doctor, my gynecologist, and told her what was going on. And so she prescribed me by the mouth birth control to help with everything. It finally normed out. And that was such a good feeling and stuff.
So you still had the IUD and then you got oral birth control as well.
Yes. So I was on 2 forms of birth control. Because, yeah. And I would be lying if I said that didn't have an effect on my body as well. Mm-hmm. It made me stop bleeding, but it also had different effects. I lost almost all my sexual drive. Like, I went from a person that had sex several times a week to not wanting it, or even only wanting it maybe once every 6 months. Yes.
Oh, wow.
Went months without having sex, without even thinking about it. And at this time I was in a relationship, and I wouldn't think about it until the person brought it up and they were like, hey, we haven't had sex in a really long time. And I'd be like, well, I don't even think about it. I don't want it. There's nothing, I just don't want it, And so for a long time, that made the response, that made me reflect upon myself of, what's wrong with me? Why don't I want to have sex? This isn't normal. I'm in my 20s. I should be wanting to have this and everything like that. But I also don't think I was coping with the fact that I never fully dealt with the first abortion. I never fully dealt with what that did to me. I never fully dealt with the second one. I never fully dealt with, the trauma of having sex and that being a result of it. And I'm still working through that to this day and everything. It's gotten a lot better and stuff like that, but it is still one of those things that I'm still on birth control and I still don't have a very high sex drive. And it's very hard to be in a relationship and stuff like that. I'm so lucky to be with the partner that I'm with now, who's understanding, who doesn't expect me to do something that I don't want to do, who's supportive, who understands, all that. And so it's nice to have that communication back and forth and everything like that. But it does suck, just thinking that something's wrong with you when there's nothing wrong with you. You just happen to have a traumatic experience, and I think an abortion is a traumatic experience.
Yes.
Pregnancy is a traumatic experience.
Yes.
Whether or not you go through with the pregnancy, have an abortion, or give up the child for adoption, it is all very traumatic.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know. So those are my 2 stories.
Okay.
I think once you mentioned that when you had sex, both the times that you got pregnant.
I don't know when I got pregnant. As far as I don't know what times those were.
Okay, but like during the times that you got pregnant, I want to say you said that like you used condoms and you never let a guy come in you.
I've never let a guy come at me.
Right. So
Well, there was a miscommunication of a guy coming in me.
Okay, was it around one of those times?
No.
Okay.
No, years
So
later.
so
years
other
later,
than-
yes, bad communication that happened. It was kind of funny. Yes. It was like, wait, what? You weren't saying that? Oh, no. So I was very grateful that the person was like, I'm so sorry. Like, that wasn't my intent. Like, I thought you were saying this, but you were saying that. And so, yes. But yeah, up until that point, I had never had somebody come in me ever.
You got pregnant from pre-cum,
Yes.
which is annoying and terrifying.
It's very terrifying. But that's, I don't know. I guess I have a problem with that. I guess I never thought about it until just now. Pre-cum, like we don't hold that the same as coming, but it's the same exact thing, you know. And like, why do we view that differently? Do you think?
My guess would be because pre-cum is not as much liquid as when a man ejaculates, whereas like when he ejaculates, it's like a full load of like.
But you only need one tiny little sperm, so the
Well,
And it takes, obviously you only need one, but like there's a bunch of them that die on the way to the tubes. So you do need a certain amount to be able to make it to the fallopian tubes to be able to get to the egg.
So do you think it's a misconception of, oh, there's not enough sperm in pre-cum for it to get you pregnant?
Probably.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not sure what everyone's
Well, right.
perception is, but yeah, I would imagine it's like, oh, it's just a little bit, like, it's just pre-cum, it's fine. Though, like, when I first got on birth control, I told my sister, and she terrified me. She was like, I mean, you can still get pregnant. You can get pregnant from pre-cum. You can sometimes get pregnant on your period. And I was like, I'm never safe.
Yeah, that's how, well, and that's my PTSD. I have a PTSD of I am never safe. Yeah, every time I have sex, that is in the back of my mind.
Like, you can't just fully enjoy and be like, I'm going to enjoy this and I love this and I love this person and it's wonderful. You're like, oh, God.
I have to be careful.
yeah.
Like, that is in the back of my mind at some point in time. I have to be careful.
Yeah.
And even it's like to the point where when years later that miscommunication happened and, you know, I was coming and everything like that, I went out and bought Plan B even though I was on birth control.
Yeah.
Because I have a fear. I have a fear of getting pregnant again. And the fear was so big, and I had even brought it up to my gynecologist, being like, I don't ever want to get pregnant again. Like, will you remove my tubes and everything? Like, just get it out of me. Like, I didn't really understand the procedures at the time and stuff like that. And she told me, she was like, you know, I am more of a liberal doctor. So she goes, if you were still asking for this at the age of 24, she goes, I will be willing to give you the procedure. And when I had seen her at that time, I was 21. So it was a year after everything that I had gone and seen her. And I was like, okay, cool. Almost to the date of being like 24 and everything like that, I remember going to her and she sat down with me and had more in a depth conversation with me about, okay, this is what's going to happen to your body if you remove all that stuff or you tie your tubes or all that. And that was another thing that I had to deal with was, do I want that to happen to my body? Like, I am young. I am in my 20s. And then I think what made me not do it, which this had never been explained to me before, was that it might not last that long.
What?
So that's why they wait until you're a little bit older to do it. Because you can have pregnancies after tubes are tied, you know, and stuff like that. And so that was a thing where it was like, oh, so I understand why they try to push it.
That and it still wouldn't necessarily work.
You might have a pregnancy at 48 or 42 or something like that. 48 is actually a little bit older.
I mean, you still can though.
You probably, yeah, if you haven't gone through menopause, you can still get pregnant. So yeah, that was one of those things where it was like, you know what, I think having your hormones is important to have a healthy, functional body, which is kind of weird to say being on 2 forms of birth control, because I realized how damaging that is.
Yeah, how fucked up your hormones already are.
Exactly. So it's like, it's a bad choice either way.
Yeah.
It sucks either way. It sucks to have to be on birth control, and it sucks to not have your reproductive organs.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, which edge of the sword do you want to fall on?
When faced with that decision, what emotions did you find yourself grappling with?
Okay.
Ooh, one of them was, is anybody gonna try to stop me?
Okay.
Or try to influence me into a different direction than what I actually want.
Okay.
And just for everybody out there, like, I was always one of those people that I never really wanted kids, and I still don't actually want kids. If I ever wanted a kid, I'd want to adopt a kid. I'm a little selfish in the way of I actually don't want to birth a kid. I'm terrified of it.
That's selfish?
I think so, in a way. Yeah. I think in a way it's selfish to be like, I don't want my body to be ruined to provide life to another being.
I mean, okay.
You know, you see what I'm saying? Like, it's superficial. It's a little bit
It's interesting, though, because like I've said this before, I feel like sometimes having a kid is one of the narcissistic things you can do. Like, one of the most narcissistic things you could do, because you're literally saying, I'm going to destroy my body because I want to make something that is like me.
It's funny because I think it's a narcissistic thing too, but I don't see it that way as much as I see it as people thinking, how do I put this without sounding like a bitch? My genes deserve to survive.
Mm-hmm.
No, that doesn't sound like a bitch at
all. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I think biologically that is essentially what procreation is.
Yeah.
Like, my genes are ones that need to survive, so I'm going to make sure they do.
Which makes sense back in the day. Nowadays, when we have things where we can tell what's in your genetics, what is passed down from family members.
You still have kids, even though you know that you're likely to have diseases or issues or autistic things or...
Which that can happen to anybody. Like,
Yes,
you
but
don't
there
have to
are
have that in your family.
True, but if you know that you do have that in your family, it's kind of like even more of a... I mean, I guess not selfish because they are the ones who are going to have to deal with it.
Yeah.
But it's also like, what kind of life is that baby going to have when it is not fully functional?
Yeah.
Which I know people are like, that's like, as long as you love them and, you know, provide for them and it's great. And, you know, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I have that feeling with my own family. Like, on my father's side, there is almost every single person in his family has died from heart failure. It runs in my family. It is in my family. And so that is a big reason why I do not want to have kids. It's because I don't want to pass that down.
Yeah.
I think that's my responsibility as an adult to realize I do not need to put that on the future generation. And yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah. Next question.
How did you feel going through the procedure?
The first one, confused on things that were happening, but I think that was my lack of knowledge of medical stuff and the way that doctors worked and everything like that. So that was almost a cultural shock to me in a way. The second time, like, it was a little bit uneasy especially when there was that miscommunication with the shot and everything like that. And it was, it's uncomfortable just in general to be in that situation. But I felt at ease during the procedure for the second one and everything, and the support that I had in that room, the communication that was going on in that room and everything like that. So that's how I felt.
What was your decision-making process? Like, from the moment you found out you were pregnant, what was your process of getting to, I'm having an abortion?
There wasn't much, because I knew so basically, since I was 9 years old, I basically knew that I didn't want a kid. And I pretty much said that if I ever did, I'd want to adopt. I was 9, I'm 26 now. I still have that same thinking, which is very interesting to me that has not changed.
Yeah.
But so for me, there wasn't much of a decision-making process. The decision-making process was, for me, and this was also the way that I grew up, of having to hide certain things, not being able to be honest about certain things. For me, it was more or less, how can I set this all up to where nobody can contest it? I already have it set up. It's already been my decision. And so there's no discussion now. And so I guess that was my process of doing it, is how can I do this to where there won't be any discussion?
Did you have any support through this decision or while going through the procedure?
Through only a couple people. And that might have been on me too. I didn't share, especially even with my close friends or sisters, and even in my family now to this day. I think I only have 2 family members that know about it, and only a couple friends. I am starting to become more open about it because I'm realizing how important it is to have that support. And a lot of times you cannot count on your friends and family. And sometimes you do have to count on people that have just been through that situation. And people that have been through this situation, we don't feel like we can be honest about it. We don't feel like we can be open about it. And we don't feel like we can even comfort others, because others can't even be open about that they're going through it. So we are allowed to comfort them or let them know you're not alone. So yeah, I had a little bit, the support I had was strong, but it was few in number. But I will say, at least the few in number that I had were so incredibly strong. So I am very grateful for that.
Yeah, I remember when you told me.
I don't even remember when I told you.
I kind of came up in passing, and I was like, what? And then, like, we didn't talk about it. We didn't really... Like, I was just like, oh, okay. And then we just moved on from there. I realized, like, even if I do get pregnant, I have someone that I know I could tell, and they wouldn't judge me. They'd probably go with me. They'd been through the experience. They can tell me what I'm going to expect. Like, it was so comforting to know that you had.
That's so sweet.
Yeah, like, I know it sounds awful.
I know it sounds awful, but at the same time, that also, like, is so sweet.
Because, especially during those times that I did think about that, in my head, there was no one else that I would have told. Like, if I had gotten pregnant, I was going to be alone. And so as weird as it sounds, as horrible as it sounds, it was the most comforting thing to realize I won't be alone. I can at least have someone who's going to be there for me and who's going to probably go with me. And
Yeah. And it's happened. My sister called me one day because her friend got pregnant. And she basically said that to me. She goes, I knew I could call you because I knew that you weren't going to judge me. And I knew that you have gone through this before. And so that you could, I don't want to say counsel, but I could like just tell them my experience, you know? And I remember, and this goes for everybody, like whatever decision you make sure that you are okay with that. Whether that is keeping the baby, whether that is giving the baby up for an adoption, whether that's having an abortion. Like, this needs to be your decision and no one else's. Nobody else's. Not your mother's, not your boyfriend's, not your husband's. Yours. And I wanted her to make sure she realized that. And then the second part was, because she was, adoption was out of the question for her. She said no. So her only options were to keep it and for an abortion. And I told her, I was like, you know, regardless of what you do, like, I will be there. I will support you and everything. And I was like, but if you choose the abortion, like, make sure it's what you want. And make sure it's okay and something that you can handle and everything, because that is a big decision. It is tricky. It is life. It is, yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot of things in one. And I think that's why it's such a hot topic, because like I'm not one of those people that sits there and is like, oh, it's a fetus, it's not a baby. Like, the thing is, it is a baby. Let's be real. It's a baby. But it's not a viable baby at that point in time. And so you are terminating somebody's life.
Yeah.
Are you okay with that? And it sounds so cruel to be like, yes, I am okay with that. Because the way that I feel about it is because when life was terminated, I was able to live my life. And I've been able to make decisions for myself, and I've been able to do things that I never thought I was going to be able to do. I'm in my dream field, you know. I'm making it to my dream position in that field, you know. And so it's like, I don't know, because I am in this reality and I am living this timeline and everything, but I don't think those things would have been possible if I would have chosen to keep the babies. And so, like, telling her, make sure that you're okay with this and everything was important for me to say, because, like I said earlier, don't let anybody persuade you any way, one way or the other. And I wanted her to realize I don't want to persuade you anyway. I just want to let you know these are your options, and, like, you know, just think about it for a little bit and everything.
Yeah.
And she ended up thinking about it, and she did end up going through with the abortion. And I can't say if it's a good choice for her, if it's a bad choice for her. I am not her. I can only speak for myself, and I know for me, it was the right choice. It was the only choice for me. And as painful as it was, I would do it again. Every time.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay.
what would you want other women who might be going through that same process to know that you might not have?
That there's millions of us going through it every day. You're not alone. No matter how alone you feel in that moment, like, you're not, like, it's so sad because, like, there's so many people out there that could help you and talk to you, but because it's not something that you can openly discuss in a safe, like, while feeling safe and everything, like, you have to be private about it. You have to be hushing. You have to be whispering about it. Like, it's such a shameful thing. Like, don't feel shame. Like, you are going to be okay. You're going to be okay, and you're not alone, and you're going to get through this. And that's what I think I would say.
Has that experience made you more cautious in the future or changed the way you interact with sexual partners or sex in general? Which you definitely did answer that one.
Yes. Yes. And like it also makes me mad because I've heard so many stories from women being like, the guy didn't wear a condom, or my boyfriend doesn't like wearing a condom, or, you know, all these different things where it's like so many things that guys don't take responsibility for to protect us women from an awful occurrence like that happening, to have to make a decision like that. And so I have had to be cautious and everything like that, even while being in a relationship and everything. So that's one of those things that I find so hard to be willing to see different perspectives on, because like the idea of like men and their responsibility in this, and the fact that we still don't have a male contraceptive like we do for women, and like and one of the things that to this probably forever will still just piss me off is that as they've been testing for a male birth control or male contraceptive, the side effects that they had are what women experience every day with birth control. There's no difference of side effects for men or women. They're the same.
But they stopped those tests early because men were experiencing mood swings and acne and the same shit that women go through all the time. And so it's stuff like that that just pisses me off.
It bothers me to a very high degree as well.
Yes, and like you talking about the abortion pill, like you saying like it needs to be tested more because it doesn't like it, what it does it in a grotesque way. It is
catastrophic way to your body.
It is not done well, and it needs more study. And yet somehow someone was like, yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, it works.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it works. It doesn't matter, you know, what they feel or what they have to go through. It works. You don't have a baby anymore.
I mean, I'm glad that we at least have that pill, you know. It's better than not having any.
Yes, but still, it's kind of like that phrase right there.
It's better than not having anything.
Yes, it's kind of like when, it reminds me of when you ask for a raise from your job, and essentially they're like, well, we did give you this bonus back then, so you should just be happy with that. And it's like, no, I do.
That was back then.
Yeah, exactly. That was back then. I do really good work. I do more than I even need to. That bonus was a thank you. And I'm talking about getting paid fairly for what I do, for getting what I actually deserve. And you're telling me you should just be happy with what we give you.
Yeah.
And it's that with you know, oh, at least we have something. Like, I'll take it. I don't care what it does to me. I'll take it because it at least works, you know? And men don't have to have that perspective.
Well, and I was about to say, I will give men of more along our age generation more credit. I have had a lot of discussion with men about birth control pills for males and everything like that, and guys are asking for this. Guys want to protect themselves, because that's another aspect of this discussion that I don't think a lot of people recognize is guys they have a lot of control of this situation and everything like that, but they don't have as much protection as us women as far as birth control goes.
Yeah.
And everything. They only have a condom or the rhythm method.
Yeah.
Those are their two
Or
options.
sterilization.
Or sterilization, I forgot
Yeah,
that.
but that's still not even foolproof.
No, and the side effects for that are horrific for a male. They are. And I learned recently that my grandpa got it and is now and wasn't able to use his penis the way that he was able to use it before the procedure. So I understand the fear behind being like what's it called?
I almost said neutered.
Oh, a vasectomy.
Back to me, thank you. I'm getting neutered. But yeah, so that repercussion as far as a birth control method is far greater than any repercussion a woman has in a way of, well, yes and no.
Because if a woman
Gets
has
ovarian.
the same sterilization, then she also has a bunch of stuff that's screwed up in her body too.
That's true.
So I mean, it's
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just, it's hard because it's like no matter what, like your body was made to reprocreate, but the world that we live in now, we can make the decisions to be like, I don't want a kid, or I don't want a kid right now, you know, and I have the choice to make that.
Yeah.
But the repercussions that come with each one of those decisions holds weight behind it.
hate it when I am having sex with someone and I tell them I need you to wear a condom, and your response is to try and convince me why you shouldn't, instead of being like, yep, no problem, I respect that this is something that you're gonna have to deal with for the most part, and I will choose to, you know, adhere to what you want. Like, I hate it when someone's like, oh, but they just don't feel good, or like, are you sure you want to use one on? Like, I was once talking to someone, and it was kind of during a time where I was being an absolute whore, which is fine.
It's okay. That's okay.
So I was talking to this guy, and it was just a shit situation. Like, I normally am not into young dudes, but I was like, okay, he was like 21. I think I was like 24, 25. But he was like, yeah, I live with my parents. We'd have to like have sex in my car. And I think I was living with my sister or something. And I was like, yeah, okay, I'll deal with it as long as I get sex. Like,
Yeah.
I haven't had much car sex. Maybe it'll be good. I don't know. And so we're kind of like setting up what?
Nothing. Maybe it'll be good. Car sex. Never.
Whenever.
Yes.
Unless you just have a limousine somewhere in your backyard. Oh, sounds fun.
Is that a car though?
I don't know what that is.
Anyways.
Weird thing. Anyway, okay. But like we were, you know, kind of setting up this plan of like, okay, I could maybe meet you like this time, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And then I was like, but, you know, you're going to need to, you know, wear a condom. And he was like, why? Can't you just take plan B afterwards? And I did not blink. I blocked him immediately and deleted his phone number.
I'm very proud of you for doing that, because that's also hard to do, is to set those boundaries for yourself as a woman and be like, no, I deserve to be treated with respect.
Yes.
And if I ask you to do something that's protecting me and you refuse that, then you're not somebody that I want to associate.
Yeah. And the fact that his first go-to was plan B, which means in his mind, he was not only trying to not use a condom, he was also probably going to try and come at me.
Yeah.
Because just use plan
Why
B.
not?
It's fine. Yeah. And I, like, that's also the other thing. Like, no. Because, like, I hate condoms. For me personally, my body hates condoms. Like, I will be having sex with someone and I will have tons of fluid and it's great. And then they put a condom on and put that in me and my body's like, the hell is this? And I dry up like a desert.
See, that's so interesting because my body can't tell the difference.
All mine does. It's bad. And so, like, I hate condoms. So it makes it so much harder. Like, when I've actually, like, told a man, like, hey, I'm going to need you to use a condom, it's already hard enough for me to say that because I don't want to have to say that.
Yeah.
And
You
then
know, you
for
have to
them,
protect yourself.
yes, and then for them to try and convince me, and some of them have managed to convince me not to use a condom, and I have, like, always, like, after that, I'm like, God damn it, it was one thing I could have just asked, like, I could have just, like, if I get pregnant, I'm going to beat myself up over the fact that I could have just pushed a little bit harder, had a condom, and this never would have happened. And, like, it just, the turmoil afterwards of, like, what have I just done, you know? And it's because the guy was like, oh, I don't like it. And it's like, ah!
And that's the frustrating part about it is like, it's not balanced. You wanting to feel everything and me getting pregnant and potentially, like, my body has changed now forever.
Yeah.
Foreverly changed.
Because you wanted to have a better nut.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because you wanted to feel it a little bit more.
Yeah.
Is really, like, hurtful.
Yes. And
Very hardy.
yeah, like that's kind of partially why I want to have conversations like this, because I don't think I feel like guys, I don't think when guys try to do that is a malicious thing or they're trying to get you pregnant. I do think it's I mean, sometimes it's a selfish thing and guys are just being dicks, but I feel like most of the time it's just them not thinking about what those consequences are, how it might affect you. And so having conversations like this and helping people realize that the way a woman feels when you try and convince her not to put a condom on is important.
Yeah.
Because at least some men out there are going to go, oh shit, I never thought about it from that perspective.
Yeah. Which, and that also made me think of it in the opposite way of, like, the guys out there that don't want to get girls pregnant, but the girl wants to get pregnant. And the girl will just get on them and be like, it's okay, don't wear a condom, and won't tell them, oh, I'm actually ovulating if they know, and, like, they actually get pregnant. And that's where I think having a male birth control is very important, because then guys can take, it gives them a choice, which I think is important as well. You know, guys should have the choice to not get somebody pregnant if they don't want to. I don't think they should have the choice to get somebody pregnant if the girl doesn't want to get pregnant.
Yeah.
Yes, but I think that's the same way as a girl. I don't think the girl should get pregnant from a guy that doesn't want to get her pregnant. I think that's a violation.
Yeah.
It's
Absolutely.
a
That's
high violation.
Yeah. I would probably go, I don't know if I could consider that rape, but I feel like it would be kind of a form of rape in the sense that, like, in the same way that I see if you're having sex with a man and he has a condom on and then takes it off halfway through and doesn't tell you and comes in you, I consider that rape or a form of rape. So in the same way as that, I would see the situation of a girl not telling a man that she was on birth control, you know, telling him, oh, don't wear condom, it's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretending that she's on birth control
Right.
when she's really not.
Right.
And yes,
Yeah.
and that, because I hear stories like that all the time too. I thought my girl was on birth control. She told me that she was on birth control, and they weren't.
yeah.
And that is a violation of trust, and that's just a violation of humanity, kind of.
Yeah.
Because you're birthing a kid into a family where one of them didn't want you. And had no, like, and didn't even realize that was going to happen.
Like that's the other thing about, like, forcing people to birth a child. I go back and forth. Like, I can't say I know what I would do in that situation. I've thought about it a lot. For this podcast, I've done a shit ton of research into things, and I'm kind of at the point I have no clue.
Yeah.
But I know that if I got pregnant in a time I was not ready to have a kid, I think I would struggle to love that kid and not look at it every day and be like, fuck you.
Me too.
For fucking up my life.
Or changing my life.
Yeah.
You know.
Because, like, I'm not one of those people that's like, you can't get any enjoyment out of kids or anything like that. Like, I do get that kids are very rewarding, and it's one of the hardest things that you'll ever do, but one of the most rewarding things that you will do and everything. And I understand that, but at the same time, like, I get that feeling of resentment towards that human.
Yeah. Having said that, I do honestly feel like I would be the most amazing mom because of the openness that I have and the willingness to think about things and to talk about things and to just experience things. And so I feel like on one level I'd be like the best mom, but if I wasn't ready for it, I'm not it would take a lot of counseling and a lot of work, and if I wasn't ready to have a kid, that probably means I'm not financially ready to have a kid, so I'm not going to have the money to take care of a kid, much less get counseling to learn to like this kid or be happy that I'm having it, you know. So yeah, it's a weird dichotomy, because it is like I'd be pretty fucking amazing as a mom, but also if I wasn't ready for it, I would hate that thing for a while.
And then I understand those feelings, because I have similar feelings where it's like, with the way that I grew up and everything, I know I could take care of a kid. I know that I could do it. I know that I would
do it well.
Do it well. I do. I don't want to. I don't think that's my purpose in life. I think that everybody has their own purpose and their own journey and everything like that. And a kid that I birth is not part of my journey. And it's taken a long time for me to say, that's okay. That is okay. And I don't think everybody's made to have a family with a white picket fence and, you know, this whole spiel and everything. Like, some people, like, I don't know. And it's sad to think about, because I feel like the people that have those thoughts of, I would be a great parent and I would love a child and I would know what to give that child to grow into a great adult, are the ones that don't have kids. And the ones that don't ever have those thoughts even cross their mind of, what can I offer this child? Because another thing is, I don't think people think that you're raising a young adult. You're raising an adult. The kid is such a small aspect of life. You're raising an adult, and people don't realize that. And yeah, a lot of people just go into having a kid thinking that they can do it and they know everything about it, and that there isn't long-lasting repercussions if you don't do things correctly, you know, are the ones that are having kids. And it's kind of sad to see that a lot of, what's the word that I'm looking for? Is it introspective people don't have those, like, are the ones that are more cautious about it, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
But those would probably be the best people to have kids. Because they would actually think about what they're doing and how that might affect the kid, and maybe what would be a better option, or teach their kid to be introspective as well, in the sense of like, hey, you know, let's think about this. Let's talk about this. Talk through this. Why did you choose to do that instead of this? Or, you know. Yeah. As opposed to being like, I don't know.
I think that people just don't even ask themselves basic questions before having a kid. Am I financially stable? Do I have a supportive family? Do I have what it takes to raise a kid? Do I have, like...
Do I like sleep?
Yeah. Am I worthy of having a child? I know that sounds bad, but I think more people need to ask themselves that. Am I worthy to have a kid right now? Because I think most people are not. Not saying ever. I'm just saying, like, wait a couple more years and, like, come to it when you're at a more mature level. And I think a lot of times our body's biology messes with our logic. And your biology comes in and you have these hormones that are saying, give me a fuck.
Oh, I recently experienced that. Like, for the first time in my life in the past, I don't know, maybe a month ago, I had, like, this weird, intense realization in myself while I was ovulating, annoyingly. And I was just like, I want babies. And that, it took me... till today to work through that, and just how intensely I felt that while ovulating. Like, it definitely has lessened, though I still have that desire. But, like, it was uncanny how intense that thought and that desire was in me for that time.
You made me think about something too, which was and I think it's very interesting, that whole mindset that you went through, because it did last a little while. It wasn't just during your ovulation period. It was what, like almost 2 months?
It was a week, but 2 weeks before. No, it was before Christmas.
Before Christmas, yeah. So almost 2 months.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And I respect that you can admit that's what you were going through. This is how I feel. My thoughts and my being can change. You're not a one-minded thinker. You're not like, oh, this is how it is and there's no other way of changing it. But you made me think of something where in our society, I remember growing up telling people, oh, I don't want kids, and they would be like, oh, just wait. I think it's funny that we say that, just wait, like, oh, just wait until your hormones kick in and then have a baby, like that's okay, when that's not okay. That's not an okay time to have a kid. That's not the right time to have a kid. Yeah.
On that note, it's interesting because that then essentially, what's the word? Programs people to have that in the back of their head, so when their hormones do kick in and they're not introspective and they don't take a time to go, okay, let me think about this. I am ovulating. My desires of children haven't really changed when I sit there and think about it. I still find them annoying. I don't want them, you end up thinking, oh, this is what everyone has been saying to me.
Yes.
It'll change. Okay, I get it. I'm a completely different person now. Let me go have a baby.
Yes.
And then you've suddenly had a baby, or, got married real quick to somebody who may or may not have been a great husband or father, had a baby.
Or partner.
And then, it just conditions like that idea instead of just being like, cool. That's awesome. You don't want to have kids? Okay. Instead of they're like, oh yeah, just wait, it'll change.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh my God, they were right. It changed.
And now, so I must have a kid now. Like, it all makes sense. But you're right. Like, just that programming in our society of when you feel a feeling, that's okay now to go act on that feeling. And that's not okay to just act on your feelings. I think there isn't a lot of emotional control or emotional awareness in our society. And I think a lot of people, when they hear emotions, they think sad or angry. There are so many more emotions, like within the word emotions and everything, that are interlocked in that people do not deal with. And I think if we started looking at that more and really trying to focus on controlling these different emotions, people wouldn't act irrational.
Yeah. One of the things that I've really loved with that experience and just over the past couple of years is embracing that concept of sitting with something. Like, not necessarily controlling it,
So important.
but to sit with it without any desire of I want this to go away or I'm excited about this thing, but just being like, this is here. This is here and I am here with it, and that's all. I'm going to see how this goes. I'm going to see how this changes, if this is going to stay consistent, whatever. And so I wish people more often would be willing to just say, this is kind of intense and crazy. It may be different, but I'm going to sit with it.
Well, I feel like also in our society, we don't leave room for that.
No.
It is so
There's
like,
no time to sit
there's,
and say,
you can't,
never know.
you don't have enough time to do anything throughout the day, let alone sit with your thoughts, and that is so important.
Is there anything you want to say before I turn it off?
I think it's time for discussion. whether you're a man, whether you're a woman, whether you're a they, like, let's start discussing things and let's start becoming a healthier culture. Let's stop judging people. Let's start coming with understanding and just a listening ear, and knowing that your situation is not other people's situations. What works for you doesn't work for everybody else. And that having the freedom of making decisions within your own life is the most important freedom that you can have. No matter what society you live in. It's important. Goodbye, guys. Good luck. And no matter what, you're not alone.
If you are interested in commenting about this episode, you are welcome to. You can either send me an email at lawlessconversations@yahoo.com. That is LAWLESSCONVERSATIONS@yahoo.com. You can also comment on Twitter at Lawless Convos, LAWLESSCONVOS. Finally, you can also contact me on Facebook if you just look for Lawless Conversations, 2 different words, LAWLESSCONVERSATIONS. I look forward to hearing from you. All of these social media sites can be found in my bio. Join me next week as we move on to bodily autonomy. Thank you for joining me for this episode. I look forward to next week.